Hi, and welcome to the P&D Homestead kitchen. Today I am making lasagna. So what I have is, there's my big pot of sauce. I made 2 batches in the Instant Pot of sauce yesterday and put it in the fridge overnight. I've just brought it up. It doesn't have to be boiling hot, but it's more than room temperature. I've got my lasagna pan sprayed with Pam. I like the pan with olive oil. I've got my lasagna noodles. They're about 3/4 cooked, and they're soaking in cold water to hopefully keep them from sticking together. I'm making the filling to go in it. I've got a little over a cup, maybe not quite even a cup and a half of whole milk ricotta. You can use the part skim if you want. I prefer the whole milk. I've got 2 eggs in there, a tablespoon of parsley, maybe 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. I've got a half cup more or less of Parmesan cheese. As you know, if you follow our videos, I don't measure when cooking, so it's a best guesstimate. And I've got almost 3 cups of shredded ricotta, and I'm just going to blend this all together. So the mixture's a little bit dry, and you really want it to be creamy, so I'm going to add a 3rd egg. My eggs were a little on the small side. I'll add a 3rd egg and mix it up, and if it's still dry, we'll add a 4th. You don't want it soupy, but you want it to be creamy and be able to nicely drop it and spread it out a little bit. So it really still wasn't at the creamy stage I wanted, so I went ahead and added a 4th egg, and I hope you can see this. It's a lot creamier, and this is what you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a layer of sauce in the bottom of our pan. This go in here. So we're going to put a layer. I can't do this, hang on, I can't do this left-handed. Okay, we'll try this. So I've got this, as I said, it doesn't have to be boiling hot, and you just want to spread a layer all over the bottom, and then we'll start layering noodles. And just kind of spread it out so that it's covered. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be every little spot covered. Just enough so that there's sauce down there to help soak up the noodles. Excuse me. And now we're going to start layering our noodles. And do them however fits your pan. They may need to be trimmed a little bit to fit. And now we're going to put a layer of sauce over that. I'm pretty generous with my sauce. As I said, the noodles are only partially cooked, about 3/4, and they will soak up a lot of the juice from the sauce, so you don't want your lasagna to be dry. So now we're going to put drops of our ricotta filling over this, and then we'll layer noodles and do the process all over again. So I just take big tablespoons tablespoons full and drop it on there, and then just use my fingers to kind of spread it out a little bit. You don't have to entirely cover the layer, but I just do it usually along the rows, and it'll melt and spread as it bakes. And now for another layer of noodles right over top of that. So there's my next layer of noodles, and I'm going to do the sauce, and we'll do the rest of the ricotta filling, and then the last layer of noodles on top with more sauce to cover the entire thing. I don't know what size pan this is. It's bigger than a 9 by 13. And the 3 layers will do 12 noodles, and which is, for me, it was a whole box of the lasagna noodles. But we like to do a big batch. It does freeze well. When this is all made, it will go in the fridge and sit overnight, and that will be tomorrow night's dinner. I like it to sit. You can bake it the same day. I like it to sit because I think it melts the flavor so much more. It's like a good chili, you know, or even spaghetti. It's always better the second day or the third. So this will set, and we'll have it for dinner, and what's left will get frozen. What I'll do is cut it up into squares, put it on a foil lined pan, set it in the freezer, let it freeze, and then we'll vacuum seal it. And it keeps a long time, so it's a nice meal on a busy night when you don't want to cook and have to make something. You can pull that out of the freezer. I put a little sauce in the bottom of the pan, put the lasagna in there, put a little more sauce over the top, and then bake it. Usually 45 minutes to an hour. It's hot depending on how thick your layers are. You can layer this and make it as big as you want or as small as you want. This is just what works for us. So there's our last layer of filling. If you have any filling left over, you can freeze that and use it to make like stuffed shells and other things. It can be mixed in with any type of a pasta dish. But I'll put my last layer of noodles on there and then cover it with sauce, and we'll be good to go. I forgot to mention that I also like to sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan over the layers before I put the next layer of noodles on there, but you don't have to because there's Parmesan in the filling mixture, but it adds just a little extra flavor. So there's the finished product. When you finish the top layer and you're covering it with sauce, try to make sure that you get all the edges covered, especially the corners and everything. They'll tend to burn a little bit when they bake if there's noodles sticking up. So what I'm going to do is I'll let this sit at room temperature for a few minutes. It's pretty warm. The sauce was actually quite hot, till it cools off just a little bit, and then I'll cover it with foil, and in the fridge it'll go. Tomorrow I'll pull it out about an hour before I put it in the oven. I'll bake it at 350 for approximately an hour, and then I'll pull the cover off and I'll sprinkle it with some Parmesan cheese and a little more mozzarella on top, and bake it for another 20 minutes or so. And when you take it out of the oven, you want to let it set at least 15 minutes and allow all the juices to settle in so that your filling doesn't run out all over the place. So plan on a good hour and a half at least for baking to serving. Mighty tasty. Thanks for watching. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. When you pull your lasagna out to bake it, if it looks a little dry on top, add extra sauce, because the noodles will overnight soak up a lot of the juice from the sauce. So if it looks dry, you really want to add a little extra, because you don't want your lasagna dry. I'd rather have a little extra sauce and that I can scrape to the side than have it dry and nasty. I don't usually, because I'm pretty generous with my sauce on top, but if it does look a little bit dry, go ahead and add some extra sauce to the top. And my extra sauce I'm probably going to can. I'll have to pressure can it because it's got meat in it. I can't tell you how much sauce I use in this. I would say it's at least 4 quarts, probably 5. Hard to tell because I just make a big pot. I didn't have any left that I had canned, so I need to get going on that and get my stockpile built back up. Thank you. Hi, I'm making a batch of fudge brownies. This recipe is off the King Arthur Flour recipe site, kingarthurflour.com. I've never made any of their recipes that weren't excellent, and this one is very highly rated. And it's quite similar to the recipe I usually make, but the assembly of it is a little different. In my bowl, I've beaten 4, that's my oven preheating to 350. I have a greased 9x13 cake pan. In my bowl, I have 4 large eggs beaten with 1 1/4 cups of Dutch cocoa. Add a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of vanilla, and I've beaten that all together well. Now the different part is the butter and the sugar. You melt the butter and add the sugar to it, and you bring it up and keep stirring it to dissolve the sugar just until you start to see little bubbles form around the edge. You do not want to boil this. And we're going to slowly add this to the mixer, and unfortunately I don't have enough hands to be able to do this, so I'm probably going to have to set the camera down. I'm going to try and do this on video. We'll see if it works. You do want to add this when it's hot. Just be careful. Let it mix in a little at a time. Kind of a slow stream here. Supposedly this is what helps to give you that shiny, flaky crust on your brownies. And now I am going to have to turn off so I can scrape the pan. I'll be right back. And you want to beat that till the mixture is smooth. And we're going to add 1 1/2 cups of flour. And as always, I love my King Arthur flour. So there's a half. 1. Sorry. Not steady while I'm doing this. So I'm going to beat this in. And then by hand, I'm going to stir in a 12-ounce package of semi-sweet chocolate chips. They will pretty much melt. They do say on the site that if you want chocolate chips in your batter, to only add about 1/2 to 2/3 and let this sit for 20 minutes and then stir in the rest. I'm going to add the whole bag and let it sit for a few minutes, and then I'm going to add probably half of another 12-ounce bag. A little extra chocolate, never hurt anything. So the flour's been mixed in, and I added 1 12-ounce bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips. I like the Ghirardelli. I also like the, I think it's pronounced Guittard. Guittard. They're even better than Ghirardelli's. But I used my Ghirardelli's in here. I'm going to let this sit for 15 minutes. If it looks like most of the chips are melted, I'll add a few more. If not, we'll go with what we've got. We'll see you in a bit. So I've let it sit about 10 minutes, and there's still a lot of chips in there. So I'm going to go ahead and bake it up. It's very thick. I'm going to spread it in the pan. It's going to go in at 350. I'm going to check it in 25 minutes. It says 30. We'll check it in 25.